All right, guys, I was a little bit torn which one to cover first, whether we should cover object observers or relations between models. And I guess what we'll do is we will first handle the object observers, I guess, and then we can focus on, how to actually tie these different models together. So in loopback.js, we have the server.js file, and we have app. Now, in this file, we can access all of our models through app.models. So for instance, if I were to say app.models.user, capital U, we can access the instance. I'm going to say observe, and now we create the type of observation that we want to make. So there's a few different ones, and I'm going to bring it up here so that we can see a little more about the different types of observations that we can write. So let me drag this over here. Well, yeah, let's put it in that window, sure. So, all right. So we have different observers that we can use. This page is messed. Look at that. Okay. So we have on access, before save, after save, before delete, after delete, loaded, and persist. These are all of the values that we can pass into our observe method. So, perfect. Here you can see .observe, and then they're adding before save. So before an object is saved, and then do this. So what we are going to do is, let's look at create. So when a model is created through the post route, so we're going to think here when somebody posts a user object, we're going to hook into the create method before save. So before save, actually no, after save, so that we can get the user ID. Okay, so user, where did that go? Server, okay. Observe, after save, and then we're going to capture an error or the instance, I believe. Context. Okay. So CTX, and then we're going to use an arrow function here because we are writing ES6, folks. Their examples do not show ES6, and that's fine. This is the way that we're going to do this for right now. So for right now, let's just go ahead and console log CTX so that we can get an idea of what's being saved. So I'm going to save this. Let's put a semicolon after that. And let's save this and then load up our application again. So every time you make a change to the server.js file, you're going to need to restart the API. Cannot read property observe of undefined. Is it called users? No, I wouldn't think. There's this thing with using built-in models sometimes. It might be actually all lowercase. Let's try that. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at the model config. It is user. In server, let's try all lowercase. Or let's console log object I mean, that's spelled correctly, but it looks weird to me. All right. Object keys app dot models. So I just want to see what models we're actually getting in here. We may have to subclass everything, the user and the access tokens and stuff. All right, so app models is getting nothing. App model? Maybe I'm referring to this incorrectly. No, app model is still returning nothing. Okay, so what we need to do, I guess, move it after the boot function. I guess it's not getting it booted up first. Let's go ahead and just paste this down here. I just copied and pasted that. And let's go ahead and fix that. Need a line at the end of the file. And now let's go ahead and run npm start. And what we should see, cannot read property observe of undefined rights. Okay. Capital U. There we go. Let's go ahead and run this one more time. What we should get is a successful boot, and then after the boot, okay, so here all our models are being printed out so we can see what models we have access to right here. And now if we were to, one thing I did notice is in our after save, what we're actually going to do is, this is going to call it every time after a user object is saved. So we're going to say, we're going to replace observe with after remote, and this is camel case. And we're going to replace the after save with create. So every time a user instance is created, we're going to get ctx and next. And when we're done doing all our stuff, we're going to need to call the next method. And this is going to allow it to continue and return a response. So let's go ahead and restart once again. And now if I were to refresh this, just to be sure that everything is going to go well, and then jump down into user, I'm going to post a user. So the user that I'm going to post is going to have an email, a password field, and a username. I think that's, we see up here an example. We don't have to pass all of that information. So in this little box here, the data that we want to post, we're going to open up a JSON object. And so, okay, so this is a little bit annoying, writing JSON in a plain text field with no autocomplete, but that's fine. We're going to say email is going to be nick@nickgermain.com, comma, password, we're going to say test, and for username, we're going to say Nick. All right. Now, as soon as I click try it out, we're going to see it loaded, and it says next is not a function. Isn't that strange? Next should be a function. However, we can see the CTX is getting printed out. So let's go ahead and remove that next call. Save. And then we're going to restart. And now instead of printing out CTX, we're going to print out CTX instance. and stop this again and restart once again. And let's go back over here and try it out. And it says undefined, which it shouldn't. If we were to observe this after save, so we're not calling next there. Okay, I know what we forgot. So we do need next to be called, but we actually need three parameters: the context, the newly created user object, or whatever we want to call it here as we pass it in, and then we can print out new user is user, and now we can call next, which is a function. So let's save this, Control C, and restart the application. Should get the desired effect here when I click try it out. Okay, it returns. We've got the user created. The password field doesn't get sent back, and we also have printed out new user is, and we've accessed the user field within the I guess the observer. So every time an object is created, this is going to fire. So let's go ahead and create a new profile model instance for this user. And how we're going to do that is we're going to write app.models.profile.create. And here, the first instance we're going to pass through is going to be an object. So let's say the object that we want to pass through. All we want to do right now, let's say first name is going to be, I guess we could say user.username, and then created at is going to be new date. And now we're going to set a crucial element here, or a crucial field, which is user ID. And this is going to be equal to the user's ID. So as we're accessing, that pop-up is annoying. So as we're accessing the user object right here, printing it out here, we can now use user.username and user.id for these fields. Now, after we call the create method and pass that object as a parameter, we're going to specify a callback function. And the callback function is going to either have an error or a result. So let's go ahead and capture these parameters. So error or result. And we're going to create an arrow function here. And we're going to say if no error and result, we know that it has successfully finished. So let's console log created new profile. And let's print out the result, which should be the profile. Else, let's console log there is an error. And let's print out error. And in both instances, whether it fails or succeeds, we are going to call the next function. Now, this is getting a little bit annoying. We're going to have to ignore all those. Strings must be single quotes. There's a lot of specifics in here which aren't really required, but they're recommended. So we're going to safely ignore these for now. We're going to stop our server and rerun this. And now what we should see is when we create a new user, a new profile is going to be created as well. So there we go. We've created this. If we look here, new user is, and then it also says create a new profile. So if we were to come up to the very top and select profile and get profiles, we can try it, and now we get one. We could also try and get profiles by ID. So let's set this to 1. This is the ID of the profile we want to get. And notice that it returns a flat object. So notice the two differences here. In the get, without specifying any IDs, we're getting a list. See this? This is the response. We're getting a list. So this would be result 0. And this would just be captured at result. And so now we have a profile created, and we're setting the user ID, but that doesn't really mean anything right now because the relations for the two models aren't set up. And I guess that's what we'll do in the next video.